welcome to 216, a link to the Past Randomizer podcast. I am your host, Fear Agent. Today on the show, we've got one of my favorite people in the community, Walther. We'll get to it here shortly. A lot going on in the rando community. Council voted Specky clip out, so you don't need to practice the Specky clip. Of course, people are upset, but people would have been upset if it got allowed. So what are you going to do? We're in the thick of the tournament scene. Main tournament is in the finals now. Former guest GGW in the finals. He took the win over 2C. Great series. A lot of fun to watch. So congrats to GGW for making the finals, not only of the league this past season, but of the main tournament now as well. And he won the latest ladder invitational. So dude is on a tear. He'll be facing Lin, one of my favorite people in the community. Took Lin 3 games to get his win over Scholzer, who I believe was in the finals last year. So pretty cool. We're going to have a new champ and 2 guys I'm a big fan of, both Lin and GGW. Don't know if we'll have a interview show with the main tournament winner like we did last year with Obscure. We just had GGW on. If he wins, maybe I can convince him to come in for maybe a shorter episode. Lin is a bit shy. I've talked to him about being on the show in the past, and he's hesitant, not because he doesn't like the show or doesn't want to do the show. I don't even know if he's listened to the show, but he's a shy dude. So we'll see. Maybe I can twist his arm a little bit if he pulls it out. Either way, I'm very excited about these finals and wish both of them good luck. Good winner, no matter who comes out. So that's always fun. I've neglected the Challenge Cup this year. Apologies to everyone in the Challenge Cup. I'm sorry, I should have covered it a little bit more. Top 4, Kaysden versus Dark Sky, with Kaysden taking that 2-0. And Alex Jazz 2 versus Nux. He took that 2-0. So that's your finals, Kaysden and Alex Jazz. I think they've both been in the community for quite a while. And spoilers, I've already talked to Kaysden, so he's going to be coming on the show in season number 5. So that would be pretty cool to talk to him. So congrats to everyone in the Challenge Cup. Apologies for not covering it more. Cross Keys tournament just started. I think we're in round 1 of the Swiss. So good luck to everyone there. So the AD Keys tournament just wrapped up their Swiss portion. And it looks like everyone who finished with a 4-3 record made it into the bracket. Looks like a total of 61 runners are in the brackets, and 3 players get a first round bye. Scholzer, who we previously mentioned in the main tournament, was a semifinalist there. Going to be fighting for the bronze. Ravis, previous guest of the show, awesome runner. And Kaysden, who I just mentioned, is in the finals of the Challenge Cup. Those 3 get a first round bye. Everyone else is going to duke it out. I don't know how this works, but if you click show projected on the bracket in the Start GG bracket matchup, it has Brogor versus Kaysden in the finals. That's cool. Let's make some predictions real quick. P-Train over Skipsky. I'll take that one. Telthar versus the Lane. Gosh, I don't even know who I'd pick there. Radical Sniper and Dirty Pills. Let's go. Jesse's been on a tear. Homemade Beard versus Brev. Let's go Homemade Beer. Sean Rhapsody versus Brewers Fan JP. I'll take Brewers Fan JP. Hitzian versus PH. I'll take PH. Hitman versus Flip Heel. Damn it, Flip Heel. Just kidding. I'm going to pick Flip Hill there. Gamma 2 versus Durdash. I'll take Gamma. Bread versus Coughlin. I'll take Bread. Gilgamesh versus Vortex. I'll take Gilgamesh. Brogo versus Shinmaru. I'll take Shinmaru. Megawatt versus Scoopala. I'll take Megawatt. Jet versus Ikuhaish. I'll take Jet. Osora versus Crackerito. I'll take Osora. Zelga versus Swedish Arctic Fox. Sorry, Swedish Arctic Fox. I always have to take Zelga. Specs over Danny Music. I'll take Specs. Killer App versus Obscure. I'll take Obscure. Magnahato versus GFE. I'll take GFE. Mr. Ed versus Maniacal. Let's go with Maniacal. Structural Mike versus Powder Mario. Take Structural Mike. Keebs versus T-Stew. Let's go with Keebs. Shireen versus Tuknaldo. I'll go with Shireen. Orange versus Talon. I'll take Orange. Norse Comedy versus Mr. Aaron Snerd. I'll take Aaron. Alex Jazz versus Ike here. I'll take Alex Jazz. Kappa versus Red Kitsune. I'll take Kappa. Jula Ninja versus Drakey. I'll take Jula Ninja. Kaide Rikawa versus Jetto Man. I'll take Kaide Rikawa. Dr. Aaron versus Moogle Charm. I'll take Moogle Charm. Okay, those are all your round 1 matchups and my predictions, which are guaranteed to be wrong. Sorry to everyone that I picked. I hope everyone enjoyed the main tournament episode that we had last week. I had a lot of fun with it. Seems like the reception was good. Try to do something similar to that in the future with multiple guests. I had a lot of fun. And that kind of brings me to where I'm at with the show. You know, I was in a spot where I'm not racing. I wasn't very involved. My hosting was about to come up. And I knew I wanted to put the show to bed because the plan was just to end it. Like I had a full year and I kind of closed the chapter on 216. But people came in and paid for the next couple of years of the show as far as hosting goes. And as I recorded the final 4 episodes with Spleeby, Timp, Zelga, and Humbug, it like renewed an energy that I had. Like I just really enjoyed talking with them and it kind of lit a spark. So this is now the 5th episode past when I was planning on ending the show. And I'm just having so much fun. Like I've really enjoyed talking to the people in the community, and it's easy to pick out names that are winning tournaments and putting up really good win results. But I don't want that to be the focus of the show, because as I have moved away from competition, my perspective on all of it has just changed a little bit. But it's hard because it's hard to get noticed if you're not winning. That's just like the nature of it. But I know there's a lot of people in the community that are new that I just don't know because I'm not as plugged in, because I'm not racing them on the ladder. I'm not racing them in the tournaments. I'm not getting one-on-one interactions. So it's hard for me to like book guests if I don't know who you are. So I've got season 3 completely booked. Today on the show, we've got Walther. Next week, Darity. The week after that, we're going to talk to Ninjembro, then Lumaga. I've got PH, Telethar, and Chicks Human coming up. So season 4 is a good one. I've already started looking to season 5, and I've got some good names. You know, Allison was on the tournament roundtable, and him and I go way back. So I had to get him on the show. Sabo was on that show as well, and I'm a huge fan of Sabo. So I'm excited to hear from him. And then I got some other names. But I really want to start mixing it up. So I'm not just focusing on win results. I don't want win results to be the sole reason for me booking people on the show. I want to hear from everyone. So if there's people in the community that are up and coming that maybe don't even race, but are still part of the community, I would love to hear who they are so that I can get them on the show. So yeah, I'd love to hear some names, even if it's through DMs, of people that you'd want to see on the show that aren't necessarily winning tournaments, that might not even be participating in tournaments, but you'd still like to hear their story. I asked a question about summertime music in the Discord, so check that out because I'd love to add it to the playlist. The question was, if you're making a summer playlist, what 5 songs must be included? Mine were Santeria by Sublime, Summertime Magic by Childish Gambino, Amber by 311, Some Nights by Fun, and Doing It Right by Daft Punk. I got some cool responses and made a playlist and want to add to that, and have learned of some new artists that have been pretty cool. If you are in the States, hope you have a good 4th. Stay safe. Someone who is not in the States and who I talked to on this episode is Walther. Talk about just like a awesome dude, just in every way. Walther is just awesome. Like when you hang out in his streams, if you have the pleasure of chatting with him, he's just really funny and he makes you feel good. You can learn some Swedish when you watch his streams. That's always fun. And you know that he's just having a good time. And so in today's show, we hear Walther's story. And I love it. I love hearing all about Walther. We talk about some serious stuff, some darker issues that Walther has dealt with in the last year or so. And I'm really glad that we're able to get the word out on some of this stuff, talking about depression and things that can cause someone to have some like dark thoughts. And if you're struggling with that stuff, I highly, highly recommend that you would speak to a professional, or anyone, honestly. Just talk to someone about getting help, because everyone is special. You know, 216, I hope, proves that it doesn't matter where you are in the racing community, your story matters. And that's true with everyone. But it's not all super dark and serious with Walther, because if you know Walther, he's a fun guy. And yeah, enough of me talking about it. Let's get to it. Here's Walther. Walther, you sly son of a bitch. So glad you joined me on the show today, man. I'm really looking forward to this one. When I think of people that I wanted to talk to when I was coming up with the show, I was really hoping you would be willing to come on the show, though at the time you weren't really playing much. So here we are, season 4, and yeah, man, excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was a bit AFK for like a year, something like that.
Yeah, I remember I was messaging people like, "Have you heard from Walther? I hope he's okay." Like, no, I haven't heard from him. And then you popped up and everything was okay. So glad to have you back around.
Yeah, I mean, it's Link to the Past is too fun to stop playing, right?
I guess. I think it's the game, and I think it's the community, right? Like there's a lot of good people around here. Like you look at people like Herf who don't play the game at all and are still still playing, or someone like Drosy who doesn't play but is really involved. So I feel like I'm transitioning into one of those two people in some sort of way, an amalgamation where I don't really play, but I can't get away.
Do you ever just play for fun, just like on your own without streaming or racing?
No. Because for me, it was always the race. The race was what made it fun. Even if it wasn't streaming, if we were doing like an offline race or whatever, it was always the race that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I tend to have like I can't focus if I just playing on my own. I just end up doing silly stuff and being like unfocused on the game. So I kind of need to race just to have like a reason to go fast.
Right. Like when I'm playing the game offline or by myself, it's way more casual. Like and because it's casual and I've beat the game so many times, it doesn't feel the same, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Like there's not, even though there's a new sense of exploration of like trying to find where all the items are, I know where they are eventually. I'll get to them. So without the race, it just feels a little bit different. So
yeah, I think that makes sense.
We've been playing, for almost the same amount of time. I think you actually started a little bit before me, but we've been kind of aligned in our playing, in the fact that you and I were kind of around the similar level. I think we played a lot in like tournaments and stuff kind of early on. First of all, let's before we even start with Link to the Past, let's talk about some like your history with video games. Did you grow up playing video games? And I can tell by your accent, you're not from the States. So
no, I'm not. I was born and raised in Sweden's capital. And I think like I've been playing games since before my first memory. Like I can't tell you what I felt like the first time I played Link to the Past, because I don't have memories that early.
Mm-hmm.
I
you know the controller was in your hand.
Yeah. I when I was like 6, I had to show my older brother like how to beat the game because he didn't really.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because it's usually the opposite, right? It's usually the older brother showing the younger brother how to do it, but not for Walther. Mm-hmm.
No, but we had a like Super Nintendo growing up, so played a lot of Super Nintendo games. Even though that was like, I was born 92, so Super Nintendo was a bit old already by then. At least when I was getting older playing.
Right.
But yes, like every summer we went to our like where my father grew up in the middle of forest. So if you wanted to do something during the evenings there, it was basically playing Super Nintendo.
Do you remember what games you were playing?
It's a couple of different ones, like a lot of the Mario games. We had like they had like a compilation of, I think it was called like Super Mario All Stars, with like older NES games, but like remastered.
Yep.
Super Mario Kart, Lost Vikings, Link to the Past, a couple of like the Disney games.
Oh, sure. Were these like native language, or are they all English that you just
all
kind of had
English?
To? Okay.
I remember I bought Illusion of Time. I think it's called Illusion of Gaia in the States. And I had such a hard time trying to beat that game because it was all in English and I didn't understand what the quests that I was given.
Yeah.
So I just had to like trial and error, do stuff until I found what I needed to do. Actually replayed it for like 3 years ago with my little sister. And we just took one night and just played through the entire game, and it was like, oh, okay, this game is way different when you actually
actually understand. Yeah. Can you read it? So did that help you with learning English, like playing video games?
Yeah,
or did that come later?
I think like people in Sweden, I think, learn English a lot through playing video games and like watching movies and stuff like that, because only like the cartoons are dubbed here. Everything else, you just read the text. I remember our English teacher, or like our Swedish teacher, he was actually a little bit annoyed that we played too many games because he was like, "You're learning how to write in English," which made us worse in Swedish.
Sure. Yeah.
Because a lot of like the English words, they have a space between the words, but a lot of Swedish words, it's all combined. But we started separating the words like in English, but in Swedish instead.
So the words are combined in Swedish. Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So fear agent.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to say fear agent, you would spell that as two words, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Swedish, that would just be one word.
Interesting. And here you are.
It has a lot of games. Like,
go ahead.
We have a lot of like grammatical reasons for that. Like, a good example is like chicken liver, like frozen chicken liver. That in Swedish, if you have everything together, it means frozen chicken liver. If you have spaces, if you have spaces in between those, it means a frozen chicken is alive.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Oh man. Here's one thing. I mean, whenever you're streaming, you always have the Swedish word of the day. I always love that.
Yeah.
Trying to educate everyone while you're playing Link to the Past.
Yeah, I like to just talk with people from different cultures and just like learning how different because every like culture and like nation and stuff like that, there's so many differences but so many similarities at the same time.
Sure.
It's kind of cool to just learn like how things work in different places.
Definitely. That's, one of the things I really enjoyed about doing the podcast is talking to people from all over. Like we just had Tusi on the show, and, he grew up in an island off of Greece, but, we talked to Humbug too.
Mm-hmm.
And learning all about different cultures is super fun. So you're playing Super Nintendo. Is there anything else that's like kicking up the creative or the competitive juices, or is it mostly video games?
I've been into like for the most of my youth, or like my entire life, I guess. It's been like video games, football, and yes, I'm not gonna call it soccer.
I respect it. Yeah.
And partying, I guess. It's less partying now, but every now and then.
So like just like dance parties or just like get together parties?
Just drinking with friends and having like just having a fun night out or something.
Yeah, for sure. So you're playing SNES. Does the video games continue as you get older? Or are you playing other systems? Do you get into computer games or anything?
Yeah. So we had Super Nintendo, but then after that, like basically, if we wanted a video game system, we had to buy it with our own money. So I managed to save up and get me and my sister bought a Game Boy together.
Okay.
Which didn't cause any issues whatsoever when both wanted to play it nonstop.
Right.
So I used to play on Game Boy.
The original Game Boy?
It was a Game Boy Color.
Oh, okay.
So that led me into a lot of Pokemon because that's what every kid was playing back then.
Yeah.
I remember I was the coolest kid in the entire school because my half brother's dad, he has family in Florida. So he was over there and then he bought Pokemon Gold, which came like, it took, I think, 6 months at least before it got released in the US, before it got released here. So I had access to that game like half a year before everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
So every school break was just every kid following me around to see what the Pokemon was like.
I bet. That's awesome. So did it continue? Did you save your money up for other systems, or did it eventually come to an end?
Most of them I bought like when they were already used and old. So like when the GameCube was around, I bought an old Nintendo 64 from like a GameStop kind of. Mm-hmm. Same with like when the Wii came out, I think I bought like the GameCube. So I played most of those games, but like a bit afterwards they came out.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I did get a PlayStation 1 for one of my birthdays, which was like the exception to the rule.
Sure.
Those who played a lot of that too.
You're mostly doing Nintendo until you got that PlayStation, then?
Yeah. I mean, we played some on the computer, like the family computer as well. Like Sims was extremely popular in our house, and we only had one computer. Sims. Yeah, like Sims, then Sims 2, and I guess eventually Sims 3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of siblings. I have 10 siblings.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Not everyone was in the same house at the same time because some are a bit older.
Sure.
But we were like at least 6, sometimes 8 kids in the same house.
Oh, geez.
And then like with one family computer and one Super Nintendo, it was kind of have to fight to play sometimes.
That's what I'm wondering is how did you manage that? Like, how did you even find time to play video games if there's 5 others that are attempting to play and there's only 2 real ways to play it?
So everyone wasn't playing as much as I did. I was definitely the one who played the most.
Okay.
But like, for example, with Sims on the computer, we basically just had to set a clock for like, well, you get 1 hour and then you get 1 hour.
Yeah.
And if you spend that at 1 hour building half a house, that's your own fault.
Sure. Yeah. But I just got done building the house. Can I just go a little bit longer? So where do you land in the 10? Are you in the middle?
Yeah, pretty straight in the middle.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting spot. Man, 10 is a lot. I mean, it's just for me, it was just me and my brother. So
it's like I have 4 siblings with the same mom and dad, and then 4 siblings that share one parent, and then there's 2 stepchildren, but like step siblings. But I consider them like as much sibling as everyone else.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
I grew up with them.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So as you get older and you're playing, more and more systems, you start to get to the PlayStation. Is there anything else? Do you eventually step away from gaming, or is gaming part of your life as you get older, into your late teens, early 20s?
When I was, I don't know if you guys have this in the US, but we have like summer jobs where you can like just work over the summer as a kid or like as a teen, get some money. So my first summer job, I got enough money to buy Xbox 360 and like one game. So I bought that and bought the Grand Theft Auto 4, I think, just got released. So from then on, I pretty much only played on Xbox for a long time. Like I bought the Xbox One when that came out as well. Then eventually I bought a gaming computer. Since then I've pretty much mostly just been playing on PC. But I did buy the Switch and I have a Nintendo Switch as well. I actually got my Nintendo Switch from 2 of my Twitch followers bought it for me for a Christmas.
Oh, really?
Present. Yeah.
That's super awesome. Who would have thunk? That's so cool. So gaming has been a part of your life, basically your entire life. You never stopped gaming.
Yeah. I've probably been gaming too much. I definitely missed quite a few school days because I was stayed up all night playing games and then called in sick.
Sure. I mean, come on. You got a free Switch out of it. So what about the competitive nature? Were you doing any speed runs? Were you interested in speed runs or any sort of like racing?
Not really.
As you were growing up?
Like I think I've usually been like fairly a casual player of video games. Like I never been like at the top of any game for most of my time playing. Like I just play them because they're fun.
Yeah.
And most of the times it's been like single player games and not like multiplayer competitiveness and stuff like that.
Sure, that makes sense.
Like the one game I played that I was actually good at was Hearthstone, I guess.
But that's quite a bit later, right? Like I don't know how old Hearthstone's not. Gosh, like what, 10 years old now? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, 10.
7.
I'm not sure actually.
So were you a Worldcraft, like a World of Warcraft player too, or did Hearthstone just come from?
I think when World of Warcraft came out, like that was before I started like gaming on PC again. I kind of missed that train which might be for the better. I'm not sure.
Probably. I mean, if you have a hard time managing your time with the single player games, I'm sure something like an MMO.
Yeah, I think I played. My total time of playing World of Warcraft been like 12 hours.
Okay, so not a lot.
No.
What about football? Did you get competitive in football?
I played for a while, then I stopped playing because I kind of stopped caring about football for a while, but then it came back like with a vengeance instead.
Oh, explain.
But so I'm more of a just following the sport, like the local club at this point instead of playing.
So coming back in the vengeance with the vengeance means you watched more football.
Yeah, like way more.
Okay,
like every single game. Every single home game, I was always there live, and then like as many games as I could get away with as not adult teen, like going to the rest of parts of Sweden to see the away game.
Sure. So it was a local team that you followed, or do you still follow them?
Yeah, for sure. I have them tattooed on my arm.
Okay, so true blue. This is the dumb American talking. Like, I don't know what like level that would be considered of team. Like, it's a all Swedish league.
Yeah. So pretty much all football leagues in Europe have their own domestic leagues,
right?
And then they also have like cups where the top teams from all the domestic leagues can play against each other.
And your team, were they good enough to be competitive in some of the bigger European tournaments?
Good enough to qualify like once a decade, maybe. It's hard for Swedish teams to get into. Like the Swedish league is pretty bad compared to the rest of Europe. But like you don't watch Swedish club football because you like the sport. You watch them because you like the team.
Sure, that makes sense. I get it. We have the Seahawks, and when you think of this is American football. When you think of the Seahawks, you think of a pretty competitive team because they won the Super Bowl 10 years ago and were in the Super Bowl 9 years ago. But gosh, in the 90s, they were awful. They were just awful. So if you were a fan of the Seahawks, it was because you liked your home team, right? Like you're not rooting for them because they're really, really good. It's easy to root for a team when they're really, really good.
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of NHL, less now because now that I'm like working and not going to school, it's hard to stay up all night watching sports. But I used to root for, or still do, for the Calgary Flames, which are trash every year. Not sure why. I just remember that like I've always been following them when it comes to NHL. But yeah, that's pretty much the same. Like they get to the qualifier, or they get to the what do they call it? The playoffs. Like once every 5 years, and then they always get eliminated early anyways.
Yeah. I mean, hockey is another one of those sports where I was just turned on to it really this last couple of years with the team that we got in Seattle. And they went on a run this year in the Cup, and it was thrilling to say the least. Like that was pretty special.
Right, because you guys have a new team up in Seattle now, right?
Yeah, the Kraken. They just the second year in history. So, and then they knocked out the last year's champs, and that was pretty something. All right. So what I'm curious about, I think, is your competitive nature, because I'm trying to figure out like kind of where it came from. But now that I think about it, and when I think about racing, Walther, because you and I have raced quite a bit over the years.
Yeah.
Is you're not superly competitive. Not that you're not good, but you're not like, I have to win. You have that like diehard streak in you of like, if I'm not winning, this is the worst. Like me, like an asshole like me. So it makes sense when we kind of look back through your your kind of gaming history that there wasn't anything that kind of brought that competitiveness out of you.
I think like the most important part when I spend my time playing something, I just want to have fun. And like racing is fun, but when you don't care too much about winning, then you can take the losses a lot easier, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had that in me. I feel like maybe I could still be playing the game if I could just get rid of that stupid competitiveness that
I play a lot of Overwatch as well. And we have like a group of friends that we play with, and some of them are pretty competitive, and they get pretty salty and like angry if we're losing too much. So like after a while, I'm like, but if we're gonna be like, if we're gonna just be pissed nonstop playing this game, why are we even playing?
Totally.
Let's just play to have fun. Like, you don't have to win every game. Like in a multiplayer setting, like it's kind of designed that you're never gonna win it.
Yeah, I mean, in anything, right? It's hard to win, even when you're good and you're the top of your sport, a professional at your sport. You still lose. Like everyone loses.
Yeah, like most competitive settings are like they're made in a way where you should win about 50% of the time.
Right.
Because the better you play, the harder your opponents are going to be.
Totally, for sure. So you never got into speed running. How did you then find did you watch Let's Plays on YouTube, or did you get turned on to Twitch through a certain game?
I watch a fair bit of Let's Plays on YouTube, but that's more on the later years now. I think the way I found Link to the Past was I wanted to play Link to the Past, but I have like our Super Nintendo in a storage unit right now. So I was like, well, I can't play that. So at least I can play Link Between Worlds on the DS instead. Couldn't find that as well. So I was like, well, maybe I can just go into Twitch and maybe someone is playing it and I can just live vicariously there. Then I just found like a race. I think it was the main tournament, main tournament before the big 512 Swiss was going on right then. So I just got hooked right away. I didn't realize that wasn't even a thing. Since I always wanted to play Link to the Past anyways, I was like, well, this seems like a new way to play it.
Sure. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Were you watching Twitch before this? Were there games that kind of drove you?
Yeah, I actually even streamed on Twitch for a while before that too.
Oh.
I streamed Hearthstone in only Swedish.
Oh, okay.
Not for like too long, but like every once in a
while. So what was it about Hearthstone? Because did you play Magic the Gathering first, or?
No, I didn't. I think it was my little brother. It was just like, he just showed me one of the single adventures. It was like the first single adventure they released for Hearthstone. That's Ramos, I think. And I just tried that and just got hooked right away, and then just played. I was pretty shit at, can I say shit?
You can say whatever the fuck you want, dude.
Okay, good. I don't know. Americans are a bit weird with cursing.
Sure. Yeah. This is my podcast has the E for explicit label on it, so curse it up, dude.
Yeah, I was pretty shit at Hearthstone for a long time, but then after a while, it just kicked into another gear, and I just started becoming quite competitive in Hearthstone. Like I played quite a few tournaments in Hearthstone too.
Oh, really? Like local tournaments, or?
I played some local, and then I played a couple of little, I was trying to qualify in for some of the bigger ones. Got pretty close most of the times to get in, but I was always like at the edge. But and went to like DreamHack playing some tournaments as well.
Sure. Yeah, Hearthstone's one of those things because I grew up with Magic the Gathering where I always felt like I was playing, I'd rather just be playing Magic. You know what I mean? Like, it was close enough to where I was like, I'd rather just play Magic. But I know that it's different. It's different enough as well to be its own really like popular thing.
Yeah.
And the digital version of it being all, the fact that it's all digital and Magic has been tied to the cards. So there was like, Magic had Magic the Gathering Online. I still think they do. And it's just such a shitty old program. They kind of finally came out with Arena a few years back. And, but but it's just, Hearthstone was built to be digital, so it really, really worked.
Yeah, I tried Arena a while. It was fun, but it was just like I've been investing so much money and time into Hearthstone, and I was like, I don't think I have enough money and time to invest in another card game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I did stream. I think it's probably gone by now. I streamed with like my first 6 hours playing it, and like tried to build a couple of decks. I think my one crowning achievement was that there was one game that everyone in my chat was just saying to me to just forfeit. They were like, this is an unwinnable matchup for you. But I managed to take him to fatigue and just like draw it out, so he lost it anyways.
Nice. So with Hearthstone, then, because it's not multiplayer, right? It's one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a bit more competitive there, or is it again just?
I can definitely be a bit more competitive there. Like, but I still don't get like too like salty if I lose or anything like that, because like, especially if I'm in a matchup and I already know my odds for winning that game. So if it's like, even if it's a 70% chance for me to win, that still means that a good chance I still might not win.
Sure. Yeah. You're so reasonable, Walther. I hate that about you. You're just like, you're so on the level. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of highs or a ton of lows. It feels like you're just having a good time.
I try. Like, there's definitely times when I start getting like frustrated or stuff like that. So it's not like I do it for free, but like, sure. I still have to like kind of
manage it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. All right. So you find Link to the Past through the tournaments on Speed Gaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
When do you decide to pick it up, or do you install it on your computer and just start running stuff?
I started playing it like pretty much right away.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start racing for like, I think I just played it on my own for like 3 months maybe or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just I had two screens. On one screen I had like a tournament race, and on one screen I had me playing my seed.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just tried to like keep up with the runners. We didn't have the same seed, but I was like, okay, let's try and get to Dark World as fast as they are. Let's try to complete as many dungeons the same time as they are. Which like it worked pretty well. Only problem was that when they got to go mode and going into Ganon's Tower, like at that point I was like maybe 10 minutes behind, and I was like, well, let's just put up a new seed or a new race, and then I just started a new seed. So I got pretty good at the mid game, but I was terrible at Ganon's Tower and Ganon because I never got there. Because I was like, well, if I'm gonna start a new race, like I might as well start a new seed as well.
Mm-hmm. So you're just watching from the sideline then? Are you starting to get involved in the community, or are you just like, let me just learn how to play the random?
I kind of snuck into a lot of different parts of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like at first, I think I started following Jixon and Dr. Bobtastic.
Okay.
And just like hang out in their chat a little bit, just feeling the waters.
Sure.
And then like after that, I started doing my like first couple of daily races. And then I think the Key Sanity tournament came out. It was when Key Sanity was new.
Yep.
So that was my first tournament.
Okay.
So by then I just started playing Key Sanity and like so I mostly learned the game from.
So you were doing races on SRL but were you doing a lot of races, or was it just kind of a pickup here or there?
Probably started as pickup, but then like it wasn't that uncommon that I did like 4 races a day.
Oh, geez. So how did that first tournament go for you?
I think Swiss was 5 rounds. I think I went 1 and 4. 1 and 3. It was 5. So 1 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember the last race I did was restreamed, even though like both of us were eliminated already. And I wanted to do like I wanted to like just do something fun for chat, but I was like, oh, I'm not good enough to do all these spicy tech that everyone else is doing. Because like I barely even knew the dark rooms by then.
Sure.
But
sure.
I heard about like one thing that I heard was possible, but I never seen anyone do it. So that was taking the Smith to Ganon.
Oh, okay.
And you just fight Ganon like that. And the problem was that like this race that meant nothing was apparently super competitive anyways, because we both got Go mode at the same time, entered like Eastern as Crystal 7 at the same time. It was like in the same room the entire way up Ganon's tower. Then when both got to the pyramid, I just left to go grab the Smith.
Oh, man. That's hilarious. I hope that's on Speed Gaming's YouTube somewhere, because I check that out.
It should be. Yeah, I think so. I remember watching it back just to see what chat was saying. And I saw Willard just he was just saying it as a joke. He was like, well, next tournament, Walter's banned. And I was like, I didn't realize he was joking first. I was like, oh shit, I offended the entire community.
That's hilarious. Oh man, that's what I love about you, right? Like the match really didn't mean anything, and yet, despite it being competitive, which you wouldn't even know that it would be because you're not watching the other racer. You're just there to have a good time, man. You're just having fun. I love that.
If I still had a chance to advance, I definitely.
Sure. But there's nothing on the line, right? You got one win, or and what what's the worst that could happen? So, did you come away from that experience feeling more a part of the community, or did?
Yeah, I think that's when I started like meeting more people in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I started talking with Kern a lot after that.
Okay.
And so he and I we played a lot against each other just for fun as well. But just done like friendly on voice call races against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing like voice call races with Toy, Wall Kicks, and Eowyn as well. Eowyn is not around very much anymore. But, so we definitely.
Was this the start of the Crystal Company then?
No, and yes and no. Wall Kicks and me are both part of that. But like I think so I followed that guy Jixon from like the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And he and a couple other people, they did like Friday races on voice call.
Mm-hmm.
And I just managed to sneak into those. And I think that eventually, like, because every Friday we just had someone's Discord hosted it. And then eventually they just made a channel for it called Crystal Company. And that's kind of how that grew into their own community later.
Okay. From what I can recall, is one of the first like sub communities within Link to the Past Randomizer, which are a bit more common now.
Mm-hmm.
But it felt like because of like the group race nature of things back in 2018, 2019, that everyone was just in the main Discord for the most part. Like I'm sure they had their own Discords, but
yeah,
it felt a little bit more like everyone was in a big group as opposed to now where it's a little bit more fractured.
Yeah, so it's not like I snuck into that Discord, then I went into Giselle Shaft's Discord as well, and hanging out with that crew quite a bit. And they used to do like races. That was like right when the 512 tournament started.
Oh, okay.
So like we were just all of us just playing and practicing for that.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered me and another dude did like a race against each other, and then Giselle Shaft just like commentated it, and that was probably like one of my biggest like learning experience. I was still so new at it, and then like she can really lose herself in just the tech of the game.
Sure.
So she could just free ramble the entire time, like saying everything that we could have done differently.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I just watched that VOD like 2-3 times and like massively improved how I play the game.
Sure. I mean, I don't think she really plays anymore, but watching her play the few times that I did, it was just so impressive, the things that she could do with that controller.
Yeah.
So you then enter the 512 tournament, the big tournament.
I think that's the closest I've been to be super competitive in, because I really wanted to, like, I really like playing Swiss. Mm-hmm. And with such a big Swiss tournament, I know it's going to be brutal trying to get to the playoffs there.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to make it, and I actually did ending up making it, but it was barely. But yeah, that was probably the most fun I've had in the tournament. Probably the least fun Willard has had in the tournament.
Sure.
But handling the Swiss
Right.
every week.
Yeah. I mean, it's been covered a lot, even when we had Willard on the show, about, all that went into the admin portion of that tournament. But I mean, a 512 Swiss sounds fun. I mean, as long as you're not organizing it, right? Like, it feels like just as a participant would be pretty chaotic and fun. Do you remember what your record was?
5-2, I think.
Okay.
I think 5-2 was like the edge of getting into playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I went 2-0 and then I went 2-2. So after that, I had to win every single game.
Okay.
And I was playing like a lot of like definitely better than me players at the moment. But
sure.
I think I broke like my PB time like every single race.
So you're playing out of your mind. Yeah.
Something like that. I think I got my like first sub 130 or something like that.
Okay, so you then make it into the brackets, right? Do you remember who you played?
I don't remember. I don't think he's around anymore, but he was pretty good back then. And I got eliminated first round there. But I was just happy to make it there. I didn't expect to go any further.
Sure. You felt like you'd already won by making the brackets in a tournament, especially that big with that many people.
I remember, I think it was like race 2 where I needed to win against him. I did a spin against blind, and that glitched me into the wall.
Oh, no.
And so I had to save and quit, go back and hit it again. And then like by then I was already behind.
Yeah, that sucks. So after that main tournament, you're still racing. Do you feel even more invested in the community then?
Yeah, I think after that I just jumped into cross keys.
Or
like
that's right.
Yeah, that was just when cross keys became a thing.
Yep.
Because before that it wasn't Cross World; it was like the older version.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was tracking a race that Ack was commentating, and he was just talking about cross keys before the race started. And I was like asking if it was fun, and he was like, "Yeah, you should try it." So I just started playing it with. I think we had like a summer where we just played cross keys every night.
Yeah,
it was like pretty much the same gang playing it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of like what would turn into like the Pog Champ group, basically.
Yeah, it's a lot of those guys. Sure.
And cross keys is so mainstream now. Like everyone plays cross keys for the most part. But back then, when it was brand new, it was pretty intimidating for, I would say, the general masses of rando.
Oh, yeah. I got dead last every race because like the other ones were like Ack, Borek, Baremi, and Kyong played a lot of those as well. Residador.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like all of that gang. And it's like, I was still like fairly new, and I didn't use a map tracker, which was not the best idea.
Right.
I didn't normally use a normal tracker either. I just try to remember it in the head. With all the entrances, there was always one dungeon I forgot about eventually.
Sure. Yeah, it's so much to track, dude.
But like, I think me being like dead last every time kind of made it easier for me to start talking with them, because at the end of the race they would just hang out in my chat and just be supportive.
Yeah, that's kind of what makes it fun, right? Is the community aspect of all of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next main tournament, you don't qualify, is that right?
Yeah. I would have got around one of the seeds of the qualifiers, but I messed up the mimic glitch or not mimic glitch, the bottle glitch in not Hera, in Pod.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't get the big key from that side, and that was a pendant, and the big chest had like a required item. So if I had not messed that up, I would have probably even won that seed.
Oh wow.
But yeah, instead I last located it because I messed up my potion glitch. And I think that was enough for me to not make it. But I think, I mean, Challenge Cup that year, there was so many good players in Challenge Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it pulled up here, and just the names that are like, I think Wallkicks was even in this. Sir Linkalot was in this. It's like,
Sir Linkalot was in my group. I met Wallkicks in the playoffs, or in like playoffs.
The brackets,
the brackets. Chisame, I think, won. We were playing with the same rule set as the main tournament, which was not a good idea because, like, there was a lot of good players in there, but like this was also like all of those good players they weren't as good as they are now, and there was also a lot of new like runners as well. And we were using the same modes as the main tournament, which included expert, the expert pool.
Yes.
And actually, we even had one step further because they couldn't combine certain things, but we could. And we had, I think, something else as well that was like kind of more hardcore. So you could do like some really stupid settings. And I remember through brackets, Shisame always picked expert because he was really good at the game. So that gave him a natural advantage. And I was like, I'm going to turn the tables around when we face each other. I'm going to pick expert, swordless, enemizer. And then I just did one practice seat to see what that would look like. And you had to beat Vitreous in Skullwoods with like 4 hearts, Greemail. And I just spent like 3 hours on that boss fight and was like, maybe this is... But I think we ended up playing like hard, sort of.
But again, such huge names playing, that would go on to be like big time runners, including yourself.
That was definitely still one of my favorite tournaments too, just because like it was a good variety of modes, even though like the way we play hard mode now is very different from what it was then. But like it was still, it's kind of nice to like force yourself to play harder modes because then you have to like adapt. Like you can't just be comfortable with like your extra potions and the item.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a good way because otherwise it's so easy to get complete. It's far too easy to just like not improve because you don't have to.
Totally. So in 2019 league starts, you're actually part of the first league season with Old Swagger Jackson. You ended up teaming up with Kern, who you mentioned, and Marknificent. How did that all happen?
I think I don't fully remember. I remember that you mentioned something about doing the league. I don't think to me personally, but like maybe it was in your Twitch or something like that. And we just managed to sneak in early. Like me, Kern, and Mark, we tend to just play a lot with each other anyways. So it just felt like a natural fit. Like we were pretty much at the same level of gameplay and good friends. So it's just like a good time with friends games.
Sure. What do you remember anything about that first season? Looks like you guys went 4, or see, it looks like you went 8-4 and didn't qualify. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We had a couple of really good teams in our group.
I mean, there was only 2 groups that year. There's only 16. There's only 16 teams.
There was basically like 2 teams that were guaranteed to go through. Yeah. And like the other ones just had to like try and claw their way up there, but like it wasn't it wasn't feasible. Sure. I remember I was super close to beating both Keong and Flane in my games, but like I did some silly mistakes. But even if I didn't do those, it probably would have been super close anyways.
Sure. And then the name Old Swagger Jackson, where did that come from?
It was just like our emotes, pretty much. Bern had the old man. I had like an Aga emote, which we just made Swagger instead, and Mark had his Michael Jackson emote.
Right. That's right.
So we just put those on a Trinex and make it Old Swagger Jackson.
So you ended up teaming up for 4 seasons in total. Kind of tell me about your experience with the league and with your team and how like you guys were part of the first invitational season.
Yeah,
you guys went 7-7.
Yeah, in the same group as I tend to face wall kicks a lot in tournaments, and not anymore. But back then, it was basically every single season or tournament we played each other.
Sure. Yeah.
So he was in that season as well. We both made it to play or like the first.
Yeah, you guys made it to the first round of the playoffs.
And then they knocked us out.
Yeah,
but that's fine because I knocked him out in the tournament before, and then he knocked me out tournament before that, and I knocked him up the tournament.
And then the next season you guys go 7-7, don't make the playoffs, and then in your final season as a team, it looks like you went 6-7, and you had a tie there as well.
Right. I think that was probably the spoiler race.
That's bananas. Yeah, it was. So season 4, Kern is it ends up not playing, and you guys bring in wall kicks, and it looks like, were you the pilot of that race or?
No, I was never the pilot because I am terrible at going for spoiler logs quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was wall kicks.
Okay,
Kern used to be our pilot the season before, I think.
I see. So wall kicks pilots you. It's D Demolisher piloting. It looks like Matt 7898, and you guys finished 101.47.
Yeah,
time.
After a retime because I started 2 seconds late or something like that.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So, kind of talk to me about your time with playing the league. What was it like compared to like the main tournaments?
I mean,
or the other tournaments you played in.
The biggest difference, right, is you have more time to play because you have like the basic season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you play 3 games and then you're eliminated, or you go on to a playoff or like a bracket right away.
Mm-hmm.
So partly that, like, you have more time. You have like, okay, each week we're doing this. We do that for like 8 weeks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like the team aspect. Like you get to practice with your friends, and even if you don't know them in before, like, you probably gain new friends instead.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like just practicing with them, and then just playing the co-ops together. Like, I think the co-op part of that was definitely, I would have been fine with every co-op in some way.
Sure. I mean, co-op is the best way to play, right? Like that's when you're really having fun, at least for me, where it takes away some of that pressure. And I don't know, playing with friends is just usually a little bit better than playing by yourself.
Yeah. Like when we did our co-ops, we usually just like messed around with each other at the same time.
Sure.
Like, oh, you have to go over to Death Mountain and pick up this thing. And he's like, oh, do I? And started saving quit. I'm like, no, you don't. like let's see who can get the most bonks before we end the
game. Yeah.
Without like throwing it. Like, you have to bonk in when you're just waiting for a bomb or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Because you've been part of the community now for 5 years since 2018, but then you sort of take a break.
Yeah.
Was it just you're kind of done with Rando, or did it have more to do with your personal life?
No, it's more just I just took a full year to like try and focus on like mental health stuff. Because I've had like issues with like depression for like a long time.
Sure.
Like in my, it kind of like peaked in my mid-20s. I got like hospitalized for a while for like a suicide attempt. And then like, I think gaming was like a big part to like just bring me back to it, because gaming was like a good way to just escape from everything.
Yeah.
You just play and have fun, and you don't have to think about anything else. So I think that's why I got so competitive in Hearthstone. It was like after that, I just super focused in on that on Overwatch. And then I found Link to Pass as well. The last year I just been like going to doctors and like psychiatrists and stuff like that, just to, make sure everything goes well.
Yeah. I can't advocate enough for trying to better yourself mentally and understand that.
And I know, like, I'm not going to try and start a debate about this, but like, I know the American health system is way different.
Yeah, it's just like, it sucks. It's shitty. Yeah.
I mean, I would say so, yes.
Yeah, super shitty. Yes.
I get like I almost get anxiety just hearing about it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, because like last year, I've been to the doctors like probably like at least 5 times a month, and I think I paid in total like $150 that entire year.
Wow. Yeah.
Just like meeting experts in their fields and stuff like that.
Oh, that's super
like
awesome.
Our system definitely it's not perfect, definitely not.
Sure.
Just having that opportunity is, it makes it easier to actually like make an effort to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you want to, in America, and this is not a political show at all, but if you want to better yourself by going to the doctors, by seeing people, professionals, you got to be prepared to pay, or you got to have really good health insurance through your work. It sucks. It really sucks. Like just recently, I've been seeing someone for a counselor for the last few years that has really helped me understand my depression and the things that I go through. But insurance changed, and so I'm not going to be able to go now. Fortunately, I feel like I'm in a good spot. Like through all the counseling that we've done, I've been able to get better and find ways to handle the times that are tough. So I feel fortunate that that's happened. But if I hadn't, I'd have to be paying, I think it's like $130 per session. And it's just like, I can't afford that every week. Mm-hmm. For a doctor. It's like, it's really stinks. So yeah, man, I don't know exactly what you've gone through, but I'm so glad to hear that you're taking steps to better yourself and to, help you deal with the things like depression that can really mess us up. And it feels like the last few years, especially, it's the culture around that idea of like, mm-hmm. taking care of yourself mentally is starting to change.
So I guess there's always been some kind of stigma around it, I think, especially like, I think even extra for men, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Men is like, oh, you have to be tough and not.
Yeah. Just deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah. I think it's slowly changing, and probably like definitely changed a lot before I even got born.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
sure.
Yeah. It's good. People take care. Like it's kind of like you want to keep your body healthy, right? You don't want your body to get like too unhealthy. Like it's the same with the mind.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think back to like the movies that I grew up with, and they'd always talk about like going to a shrink and how like shameful it was. Like, oh, you saw a shrink. It's just like,
and every shrink in every movie is always like super unprofessional.
Totally. Yeah. So there's definitely like a stigma about it. I remember even talking to my counselor, like, I didn't really know what to expect from a session because all I knew was the stuff I'd seen on TV or in the movies, which is like, I lay on the couch and you hold you take notes and ask me like random questions. You know what I mean? Like I was expecting it to be just like it was in the movies, and it was quite different. A bit more personal, and I don't know. It really helped me, so I'm super glad. I had no idea that's what was going on, or the fact that you even dealt with that, because you seem like if you were to ask me, mm-hmm. just by my few interactions that we've had playing this video game, that Walther's got it all together. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would just assume, and I'm sure some people would assume that about other people in the community as well, and you just never really know that.
For sure.
The stuff that they're dealing with, like the depression that I dealt with, I kept it hidden, or I just would never want to talk about it. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's natural to, if you don't talk about it, you can pretend like it doesn't exist, right?
Totally. So it feels like you're doing better than in this last year.
Yeah, it's been a lot of like up and downs, but now I've like taken more proactive steps. Like, try and make sure it doesn't get like way worse again. Sure.
Yeah. And everyone's got their own journey and their own way of handling whatever it is that you're dealing with. Like for me, I had to learn that it was okay for me to not be okay, mm-hmm. Which was a really big thing, and which seems like, gosh, you should just know that, right? Like everyone should just know it. But for me, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I thought there was something wrong with me. So I had to.
They should teach stuff like this in school instead of like.
Totally.
I mean,
yeah.
there's so many stuff that you learn in school. It's like, well, I guess I'm never using that again.
I know. And I think of like math and stuff like financials. It's like that should be taught, like how to handle your money.
Yeah.
Why isn't that taught in school? So was getting away from games able to, even though, games was an outlet, was that a way for you to better handle?
Yeah, I think like that year when it was like as when I was as close to the bottom as possible, like that was like pretty much games was like the only thing that like made me happy. It was like, but it's also kind of like dangerous, I guess, to just try and escape from all the problems.
Sure.
Because you can do it too much. Like if you do it a bit, that could be super helpful. If you do it nonstop, then you're just piling up everything.
Right. You're masking it, right? It's not really a solution. You're just trying to hide from the problems and not actually deal with them.
Yeah, which was probably why I could race like 4 or 5 races a day, because I was like, I'm not doing anything else. As long as I keep playing, it's gonna like. But so now it's more like, I work full time again, and like I don't have the same time to race anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I also have like a very physical work, so like even if I'm just free on the evening, like I'm actually like so mentally exhausted because I'm so physically exhausted that like I could play, but I wouldn't be able to focus as I want to. Like try to play when I'm off work or like mostly weekends.
Sure. Also, here's a question for you. Does being physical also help a little bit with the mental health? Because I feel like, I'm a big guy. I don't like to work out. I have a desk job.
I am not what I would say in a good physical health. Like I'm pretty fat, honestly, but it's like it's both muscles and fat, because you have to, like, I work at a moving company, so you have to kind of be in some sort of physical fitness. But it's like it's enough that it's not an issue, but it's like I would definitely shave off a couple of 10, 20 kilos or something like that. Probably.
Sure. Yeah. So are you racing still now? Are you back doing some races?
I did the main tournament.
Oh, okay.
I did not expect to do the main tournament. Honestly, I played the 5 async and I was like, well, maybe I get in. Probably not, because I've been away for a year. So everyone who was already good has had 1 extra year to get better, and also 1 year for new players to come in to get good. But I barely made it in. I was kind of expecting the asyncs to be my D-Rust, and that would just go into the Challenge Cup from there. But I made it into the main instead, and like since I didn't even expect to get in, like I think this was the only tournament where I didn't have any like jitters during a race, because normally I get super nervous when I play races. But like this year, I was like, I didn't feel nervous a single time, because I was just 100% just for the fun.
Sure. You're playing on house money, right? Like it didn't matter whether you'd won or lost. You already had won by qualifying.
Yeah. So and I had a pretty tough group too. So like that made it even like I was even more short. I was like, yep, I'm not making through this.
Sure. Did you make it through?
No, I think I won 1 game.
Oh, okay. Who was in your group?
It was A0, Humbug, and I'm not sure who the last person was. It's someone who I'm not too familiar with, but like when I was watching or like used to going through the list of everyone who made it into the main tournament, I was like, there's like a good 30% of these names that I don't recognize, but that makes sense because I've been AFK for a year.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And the game has definitely grown, right? Like it's cool to see all the new people that are in, but yeah, that's funny. So how are you feeling overall about your spot in Rando? You're still hanging out with your group. You're still playing races a little bit more casually.
Yeah, I think when I was playing like nonstop, I considered myself like it took a long time before I considered myself good at the game. But like eventually people were like, "Oh my god, like I followed you because you're playing so good in your races." I'm like just embarrassed. I'm like, "No, there's so many better people to follow." But like eventually like it almost becomes like disrespectful to say that you're bad at the game because you just keep winning races and you're like, "Oh, no, I'm so bad." So that must mean my opponent is even like so eventually I was like, okay, I'm probably a high mid-tier runner. Or I was at this point, I'm probably just a mid-tier runner or something like that. And I mean, makes sense. You have to put it like to get to that point is fairly easy, I would say. If you just play, you're gonna get good at the game. But if you want to be at the top, you have to actually like put in a lot of practice.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm terrible at using the practice hack. Or like it becomes the same thing of just playing offline. Like I can't take it seriously. Like I try to do the boss fight 2 times, and then the third time I go in and I just start randomly using my hammer instead. And like I just can't. I don't have that focus to spend like 12 hours on one boss fight just to be able to like one cycle it or something.
For sure. I completely understand and am in the same boat. It's tough to, I never really ran NMG. I tried for a little bit, but I just could never.
I did for a while. And Fellain helped me so much with like execution when it comes to NMG, which also carries over a lot into Rando. Like he spent probably, I don't know, maybe 15 hours in total or something like that. And we just went through every single room in the game, like step by step. I was like, I was just asking for some tips or like on how to improve my NMG. And he was like, yeah, let's go into a Discord voice call. And then like 3 hours later, he was like, okay, so now we're done with Eastern. Let's continue next time. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just got a personal coach.
That's awesome, though. That's a great coach, too.
Yeah, and he had Ari as his coach as well. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, gosh, I've taken up a 10-year time, and I honestly don't want to stop because I just enjoy talking and hanging out with you, Walther. But I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everyone, and that's tilt, which is a funny question to ask you, again, because of kind of how we talked about your approach to the competitive nature of Rando while still being pretty competitive yourself. But how do you handle tilt? How do you handle the tilt that comes either in the middle of a seed when you last locate, or at the end of a seed when you lose?
I guess 2 ways I deal with it is like, say I do a stupid mistake or I die or like I last locate something because I skipped it earlier. I just try and laugh it away. Like I legit like it's like the only time I laugh out loud on my own is like it kind of forces myself to do it, but like when I start laughing, then like starts becoming more funny. Like just should I be angry because this like pixel monster killed me in this virtual world when I'm sitting at my computer? It's like it just becomes silly when you think about it. It's like it doesn't really matter. And like I also like try to like spend a lot of time just being happy for other people. So like if someone beats me, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Like I can be happy because you won. Like I don't like everything that makes people happy. It doesn't have to revolve around me the entire time. Like if you can find a way to just be happy about someone else's joy, like then all of a sudden you have like access to unlimited happiness all the time.
Sure. Gosh,
it sounds easy when you say it like that. It doesn't mean that it's easy to do it in practice, but like
sure.
Try to do it enough, and then eventually, like, you can just see it from the other person's perspective, and like, they just have like, if I lose against someone that I think I normally should win against, And I'm like, oh, that's awesome for that person because they just got like a nice upset.
Mm-hmm. Man, such a good approach. And what it is it's creating habits, right? Like, sure, it might not happen every time, but if you continually attempt to do that, then it becomes your mindset, right? It's just kind of changing the way you approach it.
Yeah.
Dude, so glad you did the show, man. I can't thank you enough. And gosh, just having you in the community is super awesome. I'm, hopefully you call me friend because that's it's just like you're the way you handle yourself, your approach to the game, your approach to like we just talked about tilt. It's just awesome, dude. It's just super awesome. And I'm super glad to hear that you're dealing with handling your depression and mental health because you're just an invaluable member of the community, man.
Yeah, thank you, dude. And thank you for like putting on these podcasts. Like I haven't listened to all of them yet. Like I've listened to most of them, but it's like, it's they've been super good so far. So thank you.
Big shout out to Walther for coming on the show. Loved having him on. Loved just chatting with him. Really enjoyed playing the game with Walther. If you get the pleasure of racing against Walther, you're going to have a good time regardless of the results. And that's when you know when you're playing against someone that's fun to play against. Because if you beat him, he's happy for you. That's awesome. So again, big shout outs to Walther for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And again, if you're struggling in any way, depression, dark thoughts, suicidal thoughts, please talk to a professional. There's resources out there for you. It's something that I've dealt with in the past for sure. So I know how it feels. I can relate. Just know that you're cared about. You're special and your story matters. Next week on the show, we've got Darity Pills. My conversation with Darity might have been my all-time favorite. Love chatting with Darity. Do not want to miss that one. That's next week. And then another super awesome conversation with Ninjembro coming up after that. The next 2 episodes are fire. So season 4 has been really good. This Walther episode has been fire. The Darity Pills episode coming up next week is fire. And then look out for Ninjembro because he comes bringing the heat after that as well. Just having a lot of fun talking with everyone. Love to hear your thoughts on everything that I talked about in the opening of the show. Anything that Walther and I talked about in the episode. Go and share your thoughts in the Discord. You can find a link to the Discord on our website, 216pod.com. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts. We're everywhere. It helped me out a lot if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It just helps the show spread the word. I think that's about it. Going to be heading on vacation this week, so I'm going to try to get that Darity Pills episode up and ready on time. So check that out next week. Yeah, appreciate y'all listening. See you next time.